Mark time. Mark. Detail. Halt. Post. Colors. Present. Colors.
Now Mark Shelton will sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order. Colors. Carry. Colors. Detail. Face. Forward. Mark. Detail. Face. Forward. Mark. Post. Colors. Ready. 2. Left. Face. Forward. March. Forward. March.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. Thank you for joining us here today. We're glad everyone can make it here for the Department of Corrections Award and Recognition Ceremony. For me, this is one of the favorite times of the year for myself, because it's an opportunity that we get to celebrate excellence within our department. We have so many great officers and staff that work for this department, but today we can only honor a few with all the hard work and dedication that they do. But before I get started, I'd like to thank a few people that help organize and set this up every year. Heather Simons, who unfortunately is not able to make it today. We have Mark Shelton, Janet Hogue, who's unable to make it today, Kelly Chamberlain, and Christy Hetzel in the back doing registration, and of course, Commissioner Menard. So at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Commissioner Menard.
Good morning. Dale just stole almost all of my talking points, so this will be even briefer than I had anticipated it being. We're here today to reward outstanding service, excellence, the excellence that happens every day that you are all representative of, the life-saving and heroic measures in facilities, the work done with evidence-based practices that's also done in facilities and the field, that really helps us meet our dual mission of public safety and rehabilitation. I did invite some additional people this year that I'd like to introduce quickly. Don O'Toole is the Chief Operating Officer, Director of Operations at the agency. Clarence Davis is the interim deputy secretary. Monica Hutt is the commissioner of Dale. The chief of something. Candace Morgan, the principal assistant at the agency. Corey Gustafson, the commissioner of the Department of Vermont Health Access. Suzanne Young, the secretary of the Agency of Human Services. Of course, you know Secretary Gobet and obviously the governor, who I'll get to in a moment. The reason I invited these folks is that it's twofold. The work that we do, we couldn't accomplish without working closely in the work that they do. And I also believe that they probably, I know they benefit from the work you do. We share so many clients. And candidly, I'm wanting to show you all off today. I'm incredibly proud of you all. Without further ado, though, I want to bring up Secretary Gobet to make a few comments. And I think many of you know him, so I'm not going to belabor the introduction.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, that's about halfway. Everybody with me? Okay. Got a few things to go over here. First of all, to this table, it means a lot to me that you're all here today. It's not a small thing for AHS to be one family fighting one fight. And so you need to know that we're all together, and that's why they're here. And for Secretary Young to be here, it means a lot to me personally because we work so closely together to deal with so many issues that at times seem unsolvable. So thank you, Secretary Young, for being here. I think most of you know that, and I mentioned this last year, that in a previous life I was an officer in the United States Army. And it's really comfortable for me to see people in uniform, see the flag, listen to our incredible singer do his work, and thank you. That's 2 years in a row that you've been amazing. And so to this group, I think of words. And the words that I think of are common, but uncommon in society. Words like courage, valor, honor, integrity, selflessness. And they're really at the core of what you do. But there's other words I think of when I think of all of you. And the first word I think of is gratitude. How grateful I am for what you do to keep our community safe. I just can't say it enough. Every time I'm around you, I say it. I hope you know I mean it. The second word that I think of when I think of all of you is proud. How proud I am of all of you. The commissioner mentioned it. Again, I hope you believe it. You do amazing work. I mean, literally amazing work. The third word I think of you, when I think of you, maybe you don't think of that often. And that's the word support. And it's something that does keep me awake at night. And that is, do we support you enough? Do you support each other enough? And I don't just mean when there's a crisis. I mean emotionally. I mean as people. And remember, people in uniform don't like to talk about love and hugging and all the emotional stuff, but I do that all the time to try to break through the emotional barriers we have. We have to support each other as we deal with tough things. And I hope you're getting the support you need. And if you're not, reach out. The last word that I think of when I think of all of you is the word tight. You are tight. It's unbelievable when I go around and visit, or when you come to the legislature or to AHS headquarters and we discuss issues. It's unbelievable how tight you are as people. And it speaks to something special in you. Something special that you all share. It speaks to something human about you, that you want to be tight with other people. And these jobs, these secretary jobs, they're very temporary. And I just hope in some small way, that in a weird way, we've been sort of tight in my time here, because that's how I want to support you. there's a special guy in the audience who I've known since he was a little boy. His name is Mr. Denton from Rutland. And I love embarrassing him. This is his 20th year at the Department of Corrections. He's probably going to be embarrassed later. But I literally worked in a restaurant with this kid back like when I was a kid. And it just speaks to how small Vermont is and how we never really get away from each other. And so just know that I'm grateful for you. I'm proud of you. I want to support you. And again, I just want to hope that we're tight. Now, I get to do probably my favorite thing in my job, which is introduce my boss, and that's the governor. Because I can say whatever I want because I have the microphone. He gets to go last, but I might get back up here, you never know. You know, it's remarkable having two small business owners working in government together, because we understand each other so well sometimes without even speaking. So when I talk about things like tight and proud and gratitude and together and all that, he gets it in a way that you just can't understand. You know, we're not really the governor and the secretary. You know, he's basically a guy that, you know, worked in the construction trades, and I've worked in restaurants. And that's how we sort of grew up, if we've ever grown up. I'm sorry, but, you know, at times I may have a youthful eye. But so it's that lens that we see the world with, that we share our view of the world. And so now I'd like to invite the governor to come on up and speak to you. Thank you, Governor.
Well, thank you, Al. And when Al had said he was going to invite the boss up, I thought his wife Kim was here, but apparently she's not, and I'm it today. I really do want to thank you all for everything you do, and good morning, and thank you for having me, by the way. It's my pleasure to join in recognizing the important work the Department of Corrections does each and every day. I realize working in corrections isn't easy. The challenges you face are complex, and new strategies of how to work in this environment seem to change every single day, and you have to conform to that. In fact, whenever I hear news about other states, including some of our ongoing issues with Pennsylvania, I'm reminded of how lucky we are to have the Vermont Department of Corrections. Whether it's an inmate dealing with a mental health issue, a substance use disorder, or any number of factors, getting to the crux of the issue can seem almost impossible. But I'm continually impressed with the persistence you show me each and every day. While efforts to maintain our traditional correctional facilities remain a big part of the department's mission, much of your work has shifted to community-based services. And as we progress, it seems the connections between the Department of Corrections and its partner agencies and departments become much more integrated and much more important. Just recently, the legislature passed S-166, a bill I intend to sign, which provides medication-assisted treatment to inmates who suffer from substance use disorder, regardless of whether they were receiving treatment before they became incarcerated. I strongly believe that this is an important step towards curbing the opioid epidemic we have in Vermont and reducing the number of repeat offenders who are charged for possession and use of opioids. And I sincerely thank those of you who worked with the legislature to pass this important measure. And I look forward to seeing the positive results in the near future. I also want you to know how much I appreciate all you do to carry forward the work of the department. It takes a team of committed and competent individuals with character and chemistry, all pulling in the same direction in order to be successful. And to recognize this teamwork, I'm happy to proclaim this week as Correctional Employees Month in Vermont. So, to make this official, I'll now read this proclamation. Excuse all the whereases, but that's how we speak on the other side of the street. So, whereas One of the primary goals for Vermont is to provide its citizens with an effective justice system which focuses on the quality of life and safety for all our citizens. And whereas Vermont's dedicated correctional employees are essential to our justice system, and whereas much is expected from the men and women who supervise offenders in correctional facilities and in the community, and without those daily hard work and sacrifices, we could not operate. And whereas correctional employees are skilled professionals who must act as counselors, communicators, educators, and experts at crisis interventions, and must protect our safety while maintaining their professional demeanor, often in a challenging environment. And whereas correctional employees must possess the intuitive sense to resolve conflict and support restorative activities while housing offenders in a humane environment or supervising offenders in the community, often to the risk of their own well-being. Now therefore, I, Philip E. Scott, Governor, do hereby proclaim May 13 to 19, 2018 as Correctional Employees Week in Vermont. So again, I thank you for having me. Congratulations on another successful year. I'll now sign this proclamation to make it official. This is the easy part. Thank you very much. I'll turn this back over to Commissioner Menard. I'm going to give this pen to Mark because he does such a wonderful, beautiful job in singing our anthem. So thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you very much, Governor. We are very grateful for your support. I forgot to mention when I was up here the first time, and I do want to correct something, Secretary of Administration, Suzanne Young. There's one Secretary of the Agency of Human Services, and that is that. The governor, unfortunately, this year is not able to spend the entire morning with us. He obviously has a state to cover. So he will be leaving. I just wanted to point that out, and then we're going to move on. We're going to move into the awards, and most importantly, we're going to get you your lunch on time.
We're going to start the award session now, so the Commissioner and the Secretary can come up. Now, Mike Touchette, Deputy Commissioner, Vermont Department of Corrections. When your name is called, just come up, you'll grab your plaque, shake hands, take pictures, smile.
Good morning. Briefly, before we begin the actual awards presentation, we have a lot of family, friends, distinguished guests here today. And I think it's important for all of those people to know that while today we're celebrating and recognizing heroic and outstanding performance on the part of our staff, this happens every single day. And if we were to recognize all of our staff that engaged in incredible work to the degree that we're presenting today, we would be here every single day, 8 hours a day. Staff in the Department of Corrections are leaders in corrections around the country. We're often looked at as the leader and as a department to learn from. And that's as a result, the direct result of everybody that's sitting in this room, all of our peers and all of our colleagues. So I think it's just important to note that while we're taking the opportunity to recognize staff for individual efforts today, this is a daily occurrence, and this department is really phenomenal. So with that, we'll get right into the formal recognitions this year. We're going to begin with the Manager of the Year, James Rice, Correctional Academy Director. Jim Rice is tireless in his efforts to cultivate a learning organization that reflects the spirit of the DOC mission and vision. He's a natural leader and dedicated mentor and coach to the Department of Corrections employees seeking training, professional development, and career pathing. On top of his many responsibilities as the Academy Director, he completed his graduate work and received his Master's in Organizational Development in December of 2017. Jim is also participating in the Vermont Leadership Initiative and maintains many certifications necessary for instructive workforce wellness, non-lethal use of force, and firearms. Jim's participation in the development of the DOC Leadership Development Program was pivotal in launching the first program in December 2017. Jim Rice is committed and talented member of the Department of Corrections and Community and is an outstanding employee. Thank you, Jim. We have several supervisors of the year. First is Amy Mott from the Rutland Probation and Parole Office, Program Supervisor. Amy supervises probationers who are exclusively assigned to domestic or other violence cases. These are some of the most disturbing and potentially dangerous criminal offense categories. Amy has thoughtfully and meticulously trained 3 new probation officers to supervise these cases. Under Amy's guidance and mentorship, these brand new officers have received the respect and trust from the district criminal and court personnel. Amy emulates the department's values and commitment to the responsibility and fosters strength-based professional development for her staff. Amy is a graduate of the Vermont Public Managers Program, received her master's degree through the online learning, and serves in the Rutland County Domestic High-Risk Team. She also serves as a case management and adjunct instructor at the Community College of Vermont. That's impressive. Supervisor of the Year, Daniel Zorzi, Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility, Facility Shift Supervisor. We'd like to recognize CFSS Zorzi for his outstanding work. Thank you, Dale. You know me too well. Dan has been a shift supervisor for just 2 short years, and in that time, he has experienced a plethora of situations and challenges that he has met with professionalism, enthusiasm, decisiveness, and clarity, all marks of a good leader. Daniel is task-oriented, you ask for it, and he gets the job done. He was asked to oversee inmate employment and was able to bring up a standard of work in which the women could be proud. He currently oversees the Field Training Officer program and oversees interviews and recruits other COs. Dan may have missed his calling as a car salesman. We have seen him take a hard no from potential candidates and turn that into a yes. He is always making sure that he issues verbal and written positive feedback and makes sure that management and his peers are aware of the good work that they do. I'm sorry, folks. I need new glasses, apparently. I'm trying to find somewhere the right distance here. The work that we do is hard. Shift supervisors oversee the safety of the entire building and all the staff and inmates. It is easy at times to get caught up in the incident and forget about the people. And Dan ensures that the people are taken care of first. He makes it a priority to check in with staff when needed, takes the extra 5 minutes to talk to an inmate, which in turn makes the difference between a use of force and not. Thank you for your professionalism, respect, dedication, and care that you bring to our team. Supervisor of the Year, Rick Wade, Northeast Correctional Complex, Chief of Security. Al, you want to accept on his behalf? Okay, so Al Cormier will accept on SOS Wade's behalf. Rick Wade provides the highest example of leadership through positive supervision and professionalism in the Department of Corrections. He encourages his staff with optimism, confidence, and setting the tone for development and the confidence of staff along the teams. He is considered with high regard by his staff, and his motivational techniques ensure that the facility is getting the best out of those with whom he supervises. Rick assumed the SOS position in 2017, and many reports have come in stating that the morale is increasing every day. The standards and work expectations are set high, but he motivates those around him to rise to the occasion, meet those goals, and even exceed those goals. His managing practices are organized, ethical, and fair. He is a true leader and a great contributor and role model for the Department of Corrections. Correctional Officer of the Year, Michael Pelton, Southern State Correctional Facility, Facility Shift Supervisor. Michael Pelton, anyways, is Correctional Facility Shift Supervisor, and is a supervisor. He came to Southern State Correctional Facility as a pre-rip from the Windsor Correctional Facility.
Bring them all.
This is only one of three.
This is a big deal, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you that you made it here. This is for you. You're going to come in the middle of this stuff.
In case you didn't know, I believe we just had triplets.
Congratulations. Thank you sincerely. That's amazing.
I'm going to start again because it's nice to see a child up here and making that part of our day. Thank you, Michael. So Michael Pelton came from the Windsor Correctional Facility to Southern State as a pre-rib. And although he took a loss of rank, he maintained a very positive attitude and demonstrated his skills as a natural leader that staff quickly followed and looked up to. Only after about 4 months at Southern State, he was a top pick to fill the shift supervisor role, position that he is currently working. Pelton was selected as the Southern State Special Response Team leader after being on the team for only a few months. He is a use of force trainer, helps develop on-the-spot training, such as his transport training pamphlets. He is eager to learn, continuously requesting more responsibilities. He seeks feedback on his performance and how to improve. Shift Supervisor Pelton demonstrates the motivation, exceptional interpersonal skills, and investment in the success of those around him, all attributes which make him an exceptional officer. Department of Corrections Work Crew Leader, Paul Lavalette, from Northeast Probation and Parole. Paul takes a lot of pride in his work and shows this in the quality of the Work Crew program. He has helped create reparative opportunities for those sentenced to the program. He reinforces responsibility, commitment, integrity of the work through the Work Crew participants on a daily basis. Paul was highlighted in the local newspaper when the Work Crew participants stated, "Work Crew is not a punishment, it is a chance to pay their debts to society." Paul has shaped a program that participants benefit from each time they complete. Caseworker of the Year, Michael McGurl from Middlebury Probation and Parole Officer. Mike consistently demonstrates a calm, steady leadership, fostering a positive workplace environment for all. He excels in his work with the parole board. He demonstrates the belief that people can change and gives them the opportunity to do so. Mike uses ethics, striving to provide offenders with pro-social skills. Mike provided trauma-informed support to a client with an extensive criminal history, achieving observable changes in his thinking and behavior and resulting in positive parole recommendation. Caseworker of the Year, Brandon Bushy, Burlington Probation and Parole Program Supervisor. Brandon is a leader as shown through his work as a probation officer and his multiple DOC trainer roles, operationalizing R&R, risk needs responsivity, and DVISR. Brandon's upbeat and can-do attitude is very helpful to his ability to work and support those that he works with. Brandon sees risk needs responsivity work as imperative in assisting offenders in becoming productive members of society, and he clearly recognizes that by helping staff understand evidence-based practices, it will create a better result for our communities. Next. Administrative Support Services, Employee of the Year, Autumn Morrissey, who cannot be here, but Supervisor Joe Sampson will accept on her behalf. Administrative Assistant. Autumn has been with the Springfield Probation Office for 4 years. She runs the administrative part of the office with quiet confidence. Autumn greets everyone with a smile and always makes them feel comfortable. She is willing to support staff even if it means stopping what it is that she is doing. She demonstrates the following qualities: productive, energetic, funny, organized, and thorough. She's done an outstanding job making sure that OMS, Offender Management System, our inmate database, is kept up to date and that all required information is entered. This office would not run as smoothly without her presence. She's been a godsend. Autumn is an asset to the Springfield office and the Department of Corrections. Corrections Team of the Year, and for those of you that are not familiar, last week the governor hosted the statewide rewards and recognition, and this team was recognized there. And last week we had a small representation from this team to, there were certainly not enough tables for everyone to come, but this team has been instrumental to shaping our work moving forward. So this is an opportunity to recognize the entire team, which comprises of Mike Harris, Catherine Alward, Sean Bayraw, Brandon Bushy, Walter Coble, Lisa Cowdrey, Brad Dansborough, Brad Dunsmore, Brian Fisher, Amber Gibbs, Maria Godleski, Travis Kimball, Caroline Marsh, Gary Marvel, Jeff Percy, Hannah, I'm sorry, somebody help me out? Thank you, that's what I meant. Stephen Russell, Joe Samsel, and Lisa Trout. And for those This team cooperated with CJ Matter's implementation planning this year. Their input to senior managers resulted in the development of an operationalizing risk need responsibility training mandated for all corrections service specialists and probationary officers. As change agents, trainers reviewed the last decades of research and evidence-based practices to convey how these practices fit together in a coherent whole. The training offered structured exercises
Well, if I can't
to
see your
connect
face, I
assessments
can't
to
see
case
you,
planning and
so-
implementation. This results-oriented collaboration informs CSS staff on how they can impact
You're looking up
recidivism
here.
reduction and how trainers can support them.
They have hands on.
It's all part of the fun, you guys. That's right.
This is a responsibility piece. We'll make sure that we get you the right stuff. I'm going to introduce Director of Facility Operations, Matt Knott, who's going to present the Medal of Valor and Preservation of Life Awards.
First objective was coming up here without tripping. That's good. Medal of Valor, Justin Batigliano. Justin's a facility shift supervisor in Northeast. 210-17, during an SRT emergency deployment, CFSS Batigliano saved several lives. In addition to his leadership when the team and mission were critically threatened by a misdirected grenade, Batigliano acted immediately and at imminent risk to his personal safety, seized control of the errant grenade and redeployed it. Thank you. The next group is for Preservation of Life Awards. I'll call the following people up. Correctional Officer 2, Jansen Satterley. Correctional Officer Robert Littlejohn. Correctional Officer David, I don't want to butcher your name, Ferriser Golan. And Correctional Officer Alicia Dankas, all from CRCF. On November 6, 2017, an inmate began choking on her meal. This was immediately recognized by CO2 Satterley. Officers Dankus, Pariser, and Littlejohn performed the Heimlich maneuver and dislodged the food. Other staff, CO Cummings, CO2 Scatchard, CFSS Zorzi, and CFSS Catella also assisted medical and the inmate for the best outcome. Preservation of Life Award, Correctional Services Specialist Desiree Crump, and Correctional Service Specialist Aaron Lester, CRCF. On March 20th, 2018, CSS Crump was meeting with an inmate in her office. At the end of the meeting, she walked the inmate back to her living unit. The inmate had been dysregulated for days, and CFS Crump recognized her state. As the inmate attempted to jump off the second story flight of stairs, CSS Crump immediately pulled her down and was assisted by CSS Letzer. Thank you. Ed Adams, superintendent, is going to stand in for this next one. Jeffrey McKee, Southern State Correctional Facility, Correctional Officer 2. 13 August 2017, CO2 McKee was conducting a medication pass for inmate Hart when he began choking on his medication. CO2 McKee performed abdominal thrusts on the inmate, and the medication was dislodged from his mouth. Due to CO2 McKee's quick actions, the inmate began breathing, and breathing was restored to normal. Thank you. Amy Jacobs, St. Albans PMP, Probation and Parole Officer 2. This is preservation of life. On 9/1/2017, PO Amy Jacobs received a call from an offender. The offender was on furlough status and called PO Jacobs to say she had taken a whole bottle of pills and she was afraid she was going to die. PO Jacobs asked her where she was and told her she was on the way. Amy then grabbed PO Lisa Wilson and then went out looking for the offender, who had told her she was walking on Fairfield Street in St. Albans. While driving around looking for the offender, they made phone contact with her. They ended up locating her. At one point while on the phone with her, she began to vomit. P.O. Jacobs could hear a male voice asking her if she was okay. The male eventually picked up the phone and gave him directions to where this person was. P.O. Jacobs also told that person to call 911. Upon arrival, the offender was laying on the ground vomiting. She proceeded to have seizures so bad that she bit her tongue and was bleeding from her mouth. Police arrived soon after the ambulance arrived. She was transported to the ER. P.O. Jacobs and Wilson stayed with her. The offender did survive and was stable. P.O. Jacobs and Wilson had not gone looking for this offender and acted as quickly as they did. The offender may very well have died. Thank you. Preservation of life for Community Corrections Officer Maxwell Maloney and Scott Melvin, St. Johnsbury Probation Officer. On 12/9/2017, CCOs Maloney and Melvin conducted a field check on Cynthia Pinheiro. When Pinheiro answered the door, she advised she had run out of heating oil, and she had turned the stove on to heat the house. Due to running out of propane, the pilot on the stove went out and the house filled with propane fumes. The CCOs also noticed a small electric heater running in the living room, which concerned them as well. This created a potential fire hazard. Pinheiro then advised she was having issues breathing, was very dizzy. CCOs advised Pinheiro she should place a call to 911. Pinheiro didn't. She didn't think to call 911, didn't think a call to 911 was necessary, and she thought she would be okay. CCOs Maloney and Melvin insisted they call 911 and kept Pinheiro comfortable outside the house until EMS arrived. The CCOs also planned for the neighbor to take Pinheiro's dog, should Pinheiro be required to stay at the hospital. Officers Maloney and Melvin worked with Pinheiro to not remain in the residence because of the strong odor of propane. And when they arrived, Pinheiro was already experiencing dizziness, difficulty breathing due to the levels of propane inside the house. Due to CCO Melvin and Maloney's actions, Cynthia Pinheiro was okay. Thank you. more Preservation of Life Award. This would be for Shift Supervisor Michael Pelton, Southern State Correctional Facility.
Bring a different time.
On 3/11/2018, Supervisor Pelton was instrumental in stopping the bleeding from inmate Powers, who was a hemophiliac, by applying a tourniquet to his wound. Due to CFSS Pelton's quick actions, the bleeding was arrested, which could have possibly saved the inmate's life. The inmate was then transported to the local hospital and later returned to the facility. CO1 Stanley Santel, this is Preservation of Life, Southern State Correctional Facility. On August 8, 2017, CO1 Santel responded to an incident in which inmate had engaged in a self-harming event. CO1 Santel applied direct pressure to the self-inflicted wound on inmate Clark's arm that was severely bleeding. His rapid response and utilization of his training aided in possibly saving this inmate's life. Preservation of Life Awards. Supervisor Jeremy Cornwall and Facility Shift Supervisor, Facility Shift Supervisor Cornwall. On August 17th, 2017, Supervisor Cornwall's expedient response to a self-harming situation aided in arresting a large amount of bleeding from a wound that inmate Clark had inflicted upon himself. Supervisor Cornwall applied direct pressure to the wound until medical staff responded. Preservation of Life. Correctional Officer Bruce Nappy. Shift Supervisor Michael Pelton. Correctional Officer David Young, all from Southern State Correctional Facility. On October 4th, 2017, CO2 Nappy, Supervisor Pelton, and CO Young were very instrumental in saving the life of inmate Phillips, who had severely lacerated his arm due to a self-harming event. By applying tourniquets to inmate Phillips' arm and assisting medical staff that were providing treatment, inmate Phillips was stabilized enough to be transported to the hospital by helicopter. This next award is Corrections Compassion Award. Community Corrections Officer Cindy Hankinson, Community Corrections Officer Ryan George, St. Johnsbury Probation Parole. While performing their field duties, CCO Hankinson and CCO George came upon a motor vehicle accident. The driver, sole occupant of the vehicle, had gone off the road and hit a tree. The driver was pinned in the vehicle, partially hanging out when they got there. CO Hankinson and CO George called 911. While waiting for emergency personnel, CCO Hankinson and George tried covering the victim with a blanket to keep him warm. The victim refused. They were able to gather the victim's name, next of kin contact information for emergency personnel. While waiting, the driver of the vehicle was pleading with the CCOs not to let him die. The CCOs provided this man with comfort and not being alone, staying with him until help arrived. The man later died of his injuries.
All right, we're getting closer to lunch. We're on the home stretch here. So right now we're going to do anniversaries. We're going to call up the group of names. And when your name's called up, just come up, stand in front. We'll take one big photo. and then off you go. Make sure you smile.
If in the likely event you get the wrong certificate, we'll fix it.
Yeah, we'll fix it. So just grab the one they hand you, and we'll fix it. It's easier that way.
Thank you.
Let's want to be here till after lunch. So 20-year anniversaries. And I apologize now for butchering anyone's name in the immediate future. Walter Bailey, Christopher Barton, Susan Carminetti, Suzanne Dubuque, Gerald Fortin, Ruthie Holmes, Andre LaFletch, Christopher Mandigo, Michael Miller, Ricky Plank, Mark Valley, Jody Barrier, Lisa Cameron, Travis Denton, Andrea Foster, Tina Haywood, Kevin Jewer, David Lee, Scott Martin, Nathan Paquette, and Rodney St. Dennis. Joe Sansel.
We're gonna have to push in a little bit here. And if you can't see my face, I can't see yours. So maybe a couple more. Bring it in. Yep. Okay, let's see. And I can see everybody. Everybody can see me. Looks good? Yep. You're good. I got it.
Thank you. All right, Tina's 25-year anniversaries. Amy Anderson, Matthew Burlew, Robert Correll, Donna Green, Mark Losby, Heather Simons, Stephen Walker, Dennis Barrier, Michael Carlisle, Ross Farnsworth, Walter Holmes, Sean McEwen,
I gotta take my own
and
picture.
Corey Stones.
You don't have to push anything. You just need to make sure everybody's centered and you can see all their faces. Because I pull it out of the video afterwards.
Head back. Yeah.
The big thing is that you see everybody's face. You see everybody's face, Mark?
I can. Now smile. You're good.
Ta-da!
30-year anniversaries. Mike Bior, Thomas Dunn, Greg Hale, Angie Hinton, David Lumbra, Marshall Rich, Deborah Blackwood, Robert Gordon, John Hernandez, Cynthia Lack, Brad McCormick, and Clark Stever.
Sign the contract now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, bring it a little bit closer together. And I can see everybody's face. Okay, we're good.
If there's anything wrong with your plaque, let us know. I did hear the commissioner say that we'll fix it, so take care of that. Now we're starting to get to really the hardcore members of the department. 35 years. Paul Heath, Sheila Martin,
Yeah.
40 years. Thank you. Tom Giffen, Keith Callan, and Patrick Tebow. For this last one, I have no words for. 45 years. For Steve Barrows. So we might have some awards left over. If someone hasn't picked up their award from someone from that facility or office, please come up and get it. Like that.
So the formal award ceremony has come to a conclusion, and you know what's fun about these things is not only the opportunity to see old faces and old friends and people that you've grown up with in your professional life, and you know on the occasion, you know in their social life as well, and you know just talking to people. Many of the faces I've known for many years, and what binds this group together is the work and the camaraderie, and that's the theme that I heard as I was talking to everybody who's been around for longer than I had and as long as I had been, is that the work itself presents challenges that you can't find anywhere else, and it's so vigorous that every day is a new day, and it really gives you the opportunity to use a skill set that you can't use anywhere else. It's always got you on your toes. It's always got you thinking about new opportunities and ways of achieving tasks, particularly with people that have challenging histories, and that's really a real challenge, a testament to the people that are working in this room. I do want to thank Dale Crook. We've got some new names for staff that we haven't heard before, but I'm sure they're going to stick. I like Corey Stones. That's really good. It's probably going to stay around for a while.
I got Menard right this time,
You got Commissioner Menard right. It's probably best. Dale, well done. I really would like to take an opportunity to thank all of our family, friends, and our guests today from the agency to celebrate the tremendous work that happens within the department. It's really an honor to have everybody here to celebrate these incredible staff and all of our staff. So without further ado, I think they're preparing to serve lunch. Thank you all very much for coming, and have a great afternoon.